In 1994, Rwanda experienced one of the most brutal genocides in human history. Just in 100 days, almost 800,000 people were slaughtered. The country was devastated and survivors were physically and psychologically damaged. Families were killed and their homes and communities were destroyed. Up to 2 million people left the country and a million of people were displaced within the country. On top of that, 75,000 children lost either one or both of their parents. If you go back to 1994 and think about it, it seems almost impossible for the people of Rwanda to overcome such hatred and horror. But after just 29 years, Rwanda is regarded as one of the safest countries to visit in Africa. Besides that, Rwanda has emerged as one of the most dynamic and promising economies in Africa. People have started calling Rwanda a new Singapore of Africa as well. A country that experienced one of the darkest moments in human history has undergone a remarkable transformation over the past few decades. In this video, we are going to take a closer look at the inspiring transformation story of Rwanda and how it has become one of Africa's fastest growing economies. In the early 1900s, Hutus and Tutsis in Rwanda were mainly identified based on their social status and occupation rather than as distinct ethnic groups. The Tutsis were often richer than Hutus and they were considered a higher social class. After the colonization of Rwanda by Belgium in 1916, the existing social hierarchy in Rwanda was reinforced and intensified. The Belgians favored the Tutsi minority, whom they believed to be superior to the Hutu majorities, and granted them greater access to education and economic opportunities. They also introduced identity card in Rwanda, which identified individuals as either Hutu, Tutsis or other groups. During World War II, the Belgians further discriminated Hutu majorities by granting citizenship and voting rights only to Tutsis. In 1959, a Hutu revolution in Rwanda led to the overthrow of the Tutsi monarchy and the establishment of the Hutu-led government. The revolution began with a series of anti-Tutsi riots in the southern and central region of the country, which were initiated by Hutu political elites seeking to gain power. As the violence escalated, Belgian troops were sent in to stop the Hutu movement, but they were unable to prevent the Hutu revolution from gaining momentum. In 1961, a referendum was held on with the question of whether Rwanda should become independent from Belgium with a Hutu-led government. Because of the Hutu majority population, the referendum was successful and Rwanda officially became independent from Belgium in 1962 with a Hutu president. Even after the independence, the government of Rwanda was not stable. The Hutu and Tutsi people kept fighting to gain power. The military rebellion in Rwanda in 1973 was a decisive moment in the country's history. The rebellion was carried out by Juvenal Habyarimana, a Hutu army officer who overthrew the existing of Tutsi dominant government. New Hutu president Habyarimana initially promised to create a more inclusive government that would represent all Rwandans regardless of ethnicity. However, over time his regime became increasingly dictatorial with power concentrated in the hand of a small group of Hutu elites. Habyarimana's government was characterized by widespread corruption, human rights abuses and lack of the political freedom. The government's policies favored the Hutu majorities at the expense of the Tutsi minorities, and Tutsis were systematically excluded from political power and discriminated against in education, employment and other areas of life. Because of which a bunch of Tutsi people fled to neighboring countries such as Uganda and Congo. In 1987, the Tutsi people who fled to Uganda established a military organization which was called the Rwandan Patriotic Front (RPF) to fight against Hutu government. The group was led by Paul Kagame, a former Ugandan army officer. In 1990, the RPF launched an invasion of Rwanda with the aim of overthrowing the Hutu dominant government of President Juvenal Habyarimana. The RPF's initial military campaign was relatively successful, with the group capturing several key towns and gaining control of the significant portion of the northern Rwanda. However, the Habyarimana government responded with a brutal crackdown on Tutsi people, using propaganda to portray the RPF as a Tutsi dominant force that poses a threat to Hutu power. Since then, the government's campaign of violence and intimidation against Tutsis escalated over the next few years. On April 6, 1994, the airplane carrying Rwandan President Juvenal Habyarimana was shot down as it was prepared to land. Responsibility for the attack was disputed, with both the RPF and Hutu extremists being blamed. Hutu extremists used the incident as an excuse for launching a coordinated campaign of the violence against Tutsis and moderate Hutus. Checkpoints and barricades were created to screen ID cards of all the Rwandan citizens. Hutu extremists also recruited and pressured Hutu civilians to arm themselves with knives, blunt objects and other weapons, and encouraged them to rape and kill their Tutsi neighbors and to destroy or steal their properties. On the other hand, RPF, who had started their revolution against Hutu government, increased their offensive action against Hutu extremists soon after the president's assassination. In July 1994, the RPF succeeded in ending the genocide by taking the control of the country, and the leader Paul Kagame became new president of the Rwanda. The RPF pursued a policy of mass arrest for those responsible for genocide, jailing over 100,000 people. RPF also killed 30,000 Hutu extremists who participated in the genocide as well. After the genocide, the country faced the daunting task of rebuilding and resolving. The genocide had also left deep conflict between the Hutu and Tutsi communities. The new government led by Kagame and RPF took on the task of rebuilding the country. The civil war had a significant impact on life expectancy, which fell to only 26 years in 1993. Since then, the government has committed to improving the health and quality of life for its citizens, achieving a life expectancy of 69 years as of 2019. In the year 2000, the government established Vision 2020, a long-term development strategy with its main objective to transform Rwanda into a middle-income country by 2020 based on a thriving private sector. Since then, the Rwandan economy has been growing steadily at 7% every year, earning a reputation as one of Africa's fastest growing economies. Rwanda also has great improvements in terms of environment. In 2012, the Rwandan government initiated the Green Fund, the largest investment fund of Africa. So far, the project has created more than 10,000 jobs and encouraged rural communities to participate in agroforestry and reforestation. Over the past few decades, Rwanda has noted significant improvements in terms of access to utilities. Access to healthcare is also improving. From 2006 to 2017, inequality declined from 0.52 to 0.43 as measured by Gini index. The poverty rate in Rwanda has decreased from 77% in 2001 to 55% in 2017. In the World Economic Forum 2017 Global Gender Gap Report, Rwanda ranked as one of the top 5 leading countries in gender equality, alongside with Finland, Iceland, Sweden and Norway. Since the civil war, the nation has pushed for more female leadership in politics. As of November 2021, the Rwandan parliament has 61% women-led majority, which is the world highest rate of female representation in parliament. Rwanda also has one of the highest rates of women participating in the labor force at 84% in 2019. The COVID-19 pandemic has created many new obstacles for Rwanda. However, the country has committed to recovery and restoration and has certainly exceeded all expectations. The Rwandan economy is thriving on technology and innovation. According to the 2019 World Bank Doing Business Index, Rwanda is 29th easiest place to do business in the world. The government has encouraged and invested in industrial activities by encouraging setting up of new industries by innovators and disruptors. The government has created an avenue for local businesses to flourish while ensuring an enabling environment for foreign business to operate as well. Many of these businesses provide revenue base for the government. For instance, when MTN, a telecom service in Africa, was keen on entering the Rwandan market in 1998, the government decided to buy a 20% stake in the company. This was driven by an ambition to not only attract the firm to operate in the country, but to ensure citizens will have access to affordable telecom services. The government has been able to leverage such investment for the public goods. Another factor responsible for Rwanda's rise as an economic figure in Africa is diversification. Most African countries depend solely on natural resources as their economic base. Rwanda, on the other hand, made efforts to ensure multiple revenue streams using agriculture, small-scale enterprise and large industries. The government has equally made strides to fund tourism as another revenue point for the state. It has a strategy to ensure Rwanda becomes the destination for Africa's business meetings, expos and summits, and a hub for Africa's startups and entrepreneurs as well. President Kagame has made reforms in the public sectors. As a result of his leadership, the government has shown zero tolerance for corruption with the public service and reduced external dependencies on loans and aids. A recent report by Transparency International ranked Rwanda as the third least corrupt country in Africa. Despite the sustained economic growth, the country is still facing some challenges such as poverty and conflict with neighboring countries. What remains to be seen is whether Rwanda can continue this development or not. From Rwanda, what we can learn is no matter how horrible the situation or crime, forgiveness and redemption is possible. Also, with the good governance, a country can rise exponentially and vice versa. Thank you for watching. Please do not forget to hit like button and subscribe to my channel. I will see you in the next video.